If you found this podcast, chances are you're a high achiever and you're successful. But now you're stuck and stressed, and you realize that everything you've created hasn't given you the fulfillment and the joy you thought it would. This is where we discuss the keys of high performance mindset and stepping into the next best version of yourself. Welcome to the Positive Persistence Podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Positive Persistence Podcast. And today we are joined by a fellow coach who cultivates leadership and empowers people to impact the world by helping them unleash the best version of themselves. Dom Clegg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ian. I'm excited to be here. Really excited.
Me too. I'm excited to have you on. For those of you guys who don't know, for those of you who are watching this, Dom and I did not call each other and ask to have matching backgrounds, which is kind of how it is. But Dom and I met because we both are graduates of the Ben Newman Coach to Coach program, which was an awesome program that really, well, I'll speak for myself, really helps me in terms of getting my mind right in coaching. And
I can second that.
It's a great program, and there's a lot of high performers in that program. That is where Dom and I met. So as I mentioned, Dom is a fellow coach, but Dom was also, he's a speaker. He's a podcast host. But I got a question for you, Dom. Would you say that first and foremost, you're a mental performance coach?
Yeah, I would say I'm a mental performance coach first and foremost, just wanting to help people to be their very best, to be honest. And that starts up top. I mean, starts in your mind to help you be your best. And something you related to when we were talking before, then it's getting it into your heart as well, right? Having it down in that and finding that core passion that's inside of you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree with that. And I just want to know personally, what do you enjoy the most about being a mental performance coach?
I would say that it's actually goes back to even being when I was a college football coach, just seeing that light bulb go off for people and realizing like, oh crap, I can do this. Or, oh yeah, this is how it's done. I know how to do this and I'm good to go now. And then now it's even seeing that transformation afterwards, right? So you see the light bulb go off. That's the initial spark of like, oh, they know how to do this. And then the next part is seeing that transformation of like just slowly exponential growth over time. And then seeing how it changes people's lives of whether it's you installed a scheme and all of a sudden the linebacker knows how to blitz the A gap better. And that's the transformation, or it's seeing the life transformation of how people start seeing, oh, if I have a positive mindset every single day, that's going to help me X, Y, and Z down the road. Or if I understand that I can control these controllables in my life, the stress is going to shrink down. Now, it's not saying there's no stress, but it's saying like I can control these things, and that's empowering me to be a better self.
You mentioned something I wanted to touch on, and that's controllables. Because I've heard you talk about this, and I was wondering if you could share with us, like break that down for us. For you, when you talk about controllables, what are those, and why are they important?
When I talk about controllables, this again goes back to being a college football coach. To give you a brief backstory of when I was a college football coach, I felt as though if I didn't teach my players more than just football, that I had failed them. So I wanted to make sure I always did some personal development, leadership development with them every single day. And it started with them as people. So I started teaching them controllables. If you think about a college kid when he or she is doing athletics, that's like a full-time job plus a full-time study load. Like it can be very, very stressful. And so I was like, let's lock in on what we can control. Like, let's stop worrying about all these other things. And so then I was like, well, what can we control? Like I had to start thinking about it. And I was like, well, I know we can always control our effort. Then we can always control our attitude. We can control our target, which is just our focus or intentional focus. Our toughness, which is just our discipline. Because if you're truly disciplined, then you are truly tough. And then the last one that I learned actually from Ben was our environment. We can control our environment. That's the only external factor that we can control that I've found so far. So I like to remember that as EATTE, EATTE. You have to eat every single day. So you might as well control your controllables every single day and make sure you eat.
Walk us through the EATTE acronym again. The E is
effort. So with effort, it's always giving maximum effort in everything you do, being relentless. And to pull from Tim Grover, you never try, you just do it. And if you fail, that's where you're going to be able to learn and grow. And so he always would say, again, Tim Grover working with Kobe, Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, some of the best ever.
Yeah.
He never allowed them to try because that puts a scale on your effort. If you try, you're holding back a little bit so that you can have that, oh, well, I tried, but I didn't give it everything. So it's okay, right? You're protecting yourself. Well, then you have variables of, well, if I would have given 100%, now I can go back and look at, well, what went wrong? What can I fix? How can I achieve this success next time? So I always say maximum effort, being
Mhm.
relentless when you're doing that. The next one is your attitude. You can control your attitude, and that starts with your mind, but it's the idea of having a productive attitude, which I say is purposeful and positive.
Okay.
And with purposeful and positive mindset, it's you're choosing to find a purpose behind what your attitude is, right? You're finding a way of, okay, this is my focus, this is my goal. What kind of attitude do I need to have to achieve that? And then positive part is it's not just that everything's sunshine and rainbows because it's not. I get that. Being an entrepreneur, things are not all sunshines and rainbows. I'm wishing some days that I don't have to do this, right? There's different things. It's cold outside. We are talking about earlier with 75 hard.
Yeah.
But finding the good in everything, because there's always a good in everything. So it's understanding that if I can just find the good, or when it comes to an athlete or a competitor or even a business person, how can I make it a competitive, fun, like almost fun for me by making it a competition? So, like, those are kind of the two things when it comes to attitude that I really like to focus in on. The next one is the target, and so it's your focus, and it's understanding that if you place your focus in the moment every single time, and you just attack that moment, and it's just winning that moment one time after another, after another, after another, then you win the day, then you win the week, then you win the month, you win the year, you win your life. It's just, but it's constantly understanding that you have to put it in the moment because you never know what opportunity you might miss. So that takes intentional focus to find those details of where I can have opportunities and where I maybe need to scale back a little bit and understand I need to grow. So that's kind of what I teach there with target. Toughness is your discipline. So I like to say doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done to the standard it needs to be done. So if you think about it from a school perspective, did I do my homework on time, turn it in on time to the standard that I can do it at? If you're a A student, that better be A work. If you're a C student, then that better be C work, right? Bare minimum. That is the absolute standard that you need to be doing it to. So it's understanding that there's a time and place for everything, but you need to do it when it needs to be done and to the level and the standard that you can provide that. And then the last one is your environment. And when I think about environment, I like to use the idea of everybody usually has a room that they sleep in. And most people can control what's in that room, where the bed is, what are the posters on the wall, what is the post-it notes that maybe you write quotes on. Like those are the different things that you can control in your environment to help your mindset of, okay, if I see this note every single day that says I am the best, then I'm programming my mind to set my day up for success by controlling my environment. The other part of environment is your phone. Every single morning, my alarm clock goes off and it has my hunger on there of telling me our family of three, inspire and empower others, maximize today. That's the first thing I see. So I use my phone and then I keep my hunger, which is my wife and my dog Maximus, on my phone. So that way I see that every single morning and I know I'm attacking the day. And then the last part of my environment that I think about is the people you surround yourself with. They say the five people you hang out with most or around the most, you're going to be the average of them and you'll be the sixth, right? So if you hang out with a bunch of people that don't care about life, that don't want to empower others or make an impact, then you'll be the sixth. But if you want to be around a bunch of successful people that are striving to be their very best, then you'll be the sixth as well. So it's all of those combined, and that's how you come up with eat. And with the idea of an alpha, most wolves would love to eat every single day, so we might as well eat every single day.
Yes. Got to eat. That's for sure. I love how you talked about attitude and finding the good. And I feel that most people, for some reason, don't realize that they have the choice of their attitude. And you talked about like waking up in the morning. Like when you wake up in the morning, you have the choice of what kind of day you're going to have.
Absolutely.
And to keep it as simple as possible, there's only two choices. You're going to have a good day or you're going to have a bad day. But it ultimately is, it's up to you. And
Absolutely.
even when your external environment provides some negative stimulus, let's say, be it a situation, a hurdle that you need to get over, some sort of catastrophe or disaster, you still have the power to find the good. And I love that you mentioned that. You have the power to find the good, which then can define your attitude.
Absolutely.
And-
I think to go on top of that, when you choose something, you're empowering yourself, right? You have the choice in everything you do. And by saying you don't have that choice, you're actually giving away all the power that you have. We are very powerful people, but we like to, I don't know if we like to, I wouldn't say we like to. I'd say that sometimes we fall victim to being a victim and thinking that's the easier route. And that's actually the harder route. By taking back our own power, that's how we become who we're supposed to be. But it's a choice to do that. And we have a lot of times we get to choose a lot of things, but we don't even think about it. And a funny story, I guess, real quick before we go on is my wife sometimes doesn't like to make decisions. Maybe you can relate to that. Of she doesn't want to make a decision on what we eat or whatever it is. And so
Mhm.
I just started doing little things because she's like, I can't make a decision on this. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna start pointing out all the things that you're making decisions on to show you that you can make decisions. And now you can make these other decisions as well. And it's the understanding of just finding the small things, right? It's understanding that we make constant decisions every single day, even if
Yeah.
we don't realize it.
Yeah, we are making decisions all the time. That's absolutely right. And what you said is so true that we are, I think, so quick to give away our power, and we allow other people's perceptions of us become our reality, which absolutely gives our power away. And then that limits our capability to decide for ourselves to find the good that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
I always say that, in every gray cloud, there's that silver lining, right? There's that old saying. Sometimes you have to squint to see it, but it's always there. It's just how bad do you want to find it, you know?
Yeah. I think it is the true idea of there's never anything that where it's completely bad. And if you don't mind, I can tell a very personal story that's going to be kind of vulnerable,
Yeah,
but I want to
absolutely.
empower some people to help them understand.
Hmm.
So I talked about Maximus. My wife and I lost Maximus, going to be a year ago at the end of March. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. Like he was a son to me. That is why he is my hunger now, to drive to maximize every single day because we don't know how long we're going to have to live on this earth.
Yeah.
And at that time, I couldn't find a silver lining. I was in a dark place. Everything was terrible. Life was the worst. I didn't want to do anything. Now I can see that there is a silver lining, that he's been able to drive me to higher heights and push myself to maximize every single day, which I wasn't doing before. I thought I was. I thought I was doing everything I could. And I don't ever wish that on anyone. I wish I didn't even have to go through it myself, but I had to go through that in order to find the silver lining. And now it's the idea of carrying on that legacy of Maximus's mission to maximize every single day.
Right. Yeah. And in going through that situation, if you wouldn't have, you wouldn't be the Dom that you are now.
Correct.
Right.
I'd be a guy that thinks he's performing at his highest, thinks that he is very disciplined, thinks he's doing everything he possibly could to achieve his success, and I wouldn't be. It'd be like a fake version of me, a hollow version, a skeleton. So I think that that would be again, not that I ever want to go through that, not that I want anybody else to go through that or a similar situation, but I was able to find a silver lining eventually. I had to go through the grieving process, couldn't rush through it. I wanted to rush through it, I wanted to be done with it. But because I was able to go through that grieving process and then reflect and understand everything that he taught me and everything that my wife and I had gone through, that there was a silver lining to this, that I could make something positive out of a very negative or bad situation.
Yeah. You mentioned something there about performing at a high level, and I want to come back to that. But I want to touch on the 3-letter word try. And I love that you brought this up because, yeah, with the clients that I've worked with for 12 years, I tell them that there's 5 words that are not allowed when we work together.
I'm
And
excited for this.
the one is try. Another is can't. won't, don't, and sorry. Those words are not allowed in the vocabulary when we're working together because those are negative words that are powerless and they lead to negativity. And I always say, like, look, we got to be talking about getting your mind right. So we're gonna focus on empowering words like can, will, must. But I love the fact that you brought up the word try because I hear that word all the time. I'll try. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do that. And for me, and I explain this, for me, the word try is the next best excuse to why we won't, because you leave yourself an out, right?
Absolutely.
Why
Absolutely.
try to do that? Well, it's like Yoda says, it's either you do it or you don't, right?
Yep.
There is no try.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, that word is so powerful in stealing someone's power. People don't understand it. So I love the fact that you brought that word up and you tied that in with effort, because you start to marginalize your effort when you start thinking in terms of try. Are you going to give maximum effort if you're going to try to do it?
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, you are not going to go ham if you are trying, right?
It's the idea. So like I always like to use this when I'm thinking about try. Okay. And then I'll get to can't because I want to get to can't as well because I like that. And I have something that I like to talk about. But with try, think about you're about to get under a squat rack and it's the heaviest you've ever done. So you're going for a PR. If in your mind you keep saying, all right, I'm going to try this, 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 you've already told yourself, I'm going to fail. You're already saying, I'm not going to get this, but I'll throw it up just to see so that people can be like, well, hey, good job, pat on the back. Instead, you're going to have to get under the squat rack anyways. You're going to have to lift that weight off the squat rack anyways. So you might as well go full force, go and do it, and then just be like, oh, I failed. Okay. So when I failed, what was the cause of that? I can look back because I know it's not my effort. I know it wasn't my effort because I gave maximum effort. I didn't try. I just did it and I didn't succeed, and that's okay. So now I can look back. Did I get enough sleep? Did I hydrate beforehand? Was my workout leading up to it, like my training process, good enough? Or was I slacking? Was I skipping reps? Was I skipping sets? Was I not putting enough weight on as I should have? That's all things you can actually then calibrate back and like reverse engineer to succeed in the future. But if I just try, well, then I might have actually done it if I gave maximum effort, but I didn't. So I can't totally know now. And now I've stripped myself from that opportunity to grow and learn and be better. And I've, again, like you said, I've stripped myself of that power to be my very best. And why would I want to do that? It's hard enough to be your very best all the time, right? Why would I pull myself down into a bad place when I know that I could be better?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to hear what what you want to add on there about the word can't.
Can't. Okay, so I'm very similar. I will teach this sometimes as part of when I work with a team or someone that I realize that they keep saying can, or maybe a coach tells me we have a problem with can't. What I like to say is, again, there's no can't, because again, it's the old adage of the man who can and the man who can't, they're both correct, right? It's that same idea, but it's the understand of you're choosing in the moment that you can't. You're choosing that you just won't do it in the moment. That's what it is. You're either momentarily choosing that you can't do it because you're like, well, this is just not for me. I don't want to do this anymore. So you don't want to get on the squat rack. You don't want to do the studying. So you're choosing that. That's a choice. It's not that you can't do it. You're just choosing you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other idea of if you say, I can't do that, well, was it because of your preparation? So you chose not to back beforehand to not be able to do that? Because if, again, under the squat rack, if you chose before to skip those reps, not put enough weight on like you're supposed to, well, yeah, you can't do that because you chose from various other decisions before that caused you not to be able to do that. If we would have followed the process, did everything we could, got under the rack, and you failed, perfect. Now we know how to fix it. Now we know what we need to build on. That's not choosing can't in the moment. That's just choosing you weren't able to do it in that moment, so we have room to grow.
It's time to ask yourself, when was the last time you prioritized you?
Did you know that research shows that nearly 85% of high performers struggle to maintain a performance mindset while juggling the demands of work and personal life? Those who actively prioritize their performance mindset and personal growth are 30% more likely to achieve their goals in business and life. If you're feeling crippling stress and anxiety, or if you're feeling guilty when you take a moment for yourself, or if you're stuck in the grind and feeling burnt out, you're not alone. Many of us yearn for more, but struggle with the fear of being judged or feeling selfish. And you want to step into the next best version of yourself. That's why I created the Rinse Method, which got me from paraplegic to marathon runner. Backed by science-based proven strategies and now customized for high performers like you. If you're stuck and stressed and want clear steps that you can implement today to move forward, make sure you visit thepositivepersistence.com to download our free Rinse PDF. Yeah, that's so true. And it's almost like the word can't is it's like a premeditated reason of why I never will. Right? You have decided in advance that this is not going to happen because
Yep.
I can't do this. Stealing your own power.
Stealing your own power. And again, it starts up here, right? It starts right in your mind of, I don't want to do this, or I can't do this. So I'm just going to put the block up of this is never happening for me. When in reality, we have all the tools, we have all the decision making. You just have to choose to actually want to do that. And if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all of our listeners and viewers, obviously you guys are hearing us talk a lot in sports analogies, but you can use this in life in general and apply it to any situation that you're in terms of giving your all and not trying, but actually doing and tapping into your own power to be able to succeed and push through whatever adversity you have in your life. But I want to bounce back a little bit here, Dom, and talk about that higher level that you talked about, because you've got experience at, playing collegiate football at a high level, coaching collegiate football at a high level. Even your academics are at a high level. Your experience as a football coach, you have a master's in sports leadership, and you talked about hunger, right? And for a lot of people, in order to achieve, the things that you've been able to achieve, or to be able to work at a high level, they tap into something where they find their why, or they find their purpose. But you've chosen to kind of take those things and put a twist on them. And instead of saying it's important that you know what your why is, or that you know what your purpose is so you can perform at a high level, you take it a little bit deeper and you talk about your hunger. So I was hoping you could kind of unpack that for us and tell us, like, what's the difference between your why or your purpose versus your hunger?
Yeah, that's perfect. That leads into my backstory of how I got to hunger. And I'll touch on that a little bit, but I think about it and why I wanted to go deeper than just why and purpose. So if everybody can just imagine what your why and purpose is. For me, my why is my family. I love my family and I want to provide for them. And that's my wife and then my parents and siblings, all that stuff. I want to provide to them. My purpose is to impact other people and make them their very best, make them great leaders, and then go and impact this world. But imagine that you have to wake up at 5 a.m. You've been working out a whole bunch. You feel like you just got hit by a bus. Maybe you're sick and you still got to go get this workout in because otherwise you're not going to be your very best. I'm going to tell you right now, my why and my purpose is not getting me out of that bed. I love my family. I love impacting people, but I'm going back to sleep if that's all that's driving me. And that might sound weird, but that in themselves are too abstract for me. They're not real enough for me to understand that I need to go right now. Today is the most important day right in front of me, and that's what I need to go. So that's where I went a little bit deeper. And I got this from Ben and kind of made my own. Talks about the burn. Ben Newman talks about the burn. I talk about hunger. And my hunger is what I think about when it comes to it's the driving force inside of you that pushes you to be your very best and attack the day, no matter the circumstance. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter what's going on, you are going to attack the day and find a way to win. And when I think about my hunger, it's again, our family of three. So Maximus, my wife, Maddie, and myself. That's our family of three. That's who I'm living for. That's who I'm grinding for. That's what I'm doing everything I possibly can to be my very best. And then I say empower and inspire others. Because again, that's my purpose. I'm going to weave that in there. It's important, but it's not the end all be all. And then the last part, I always like to put an action statement of whatever it is for people. Some people it's make a legacy. Some people it's attack the work, attack the day, whatever it is. I like to say maximize today. Make the most out of today because that's the only thing that matters to me today is today. Tomorrow's going to come. The past I can't change, but today is all that matters. So that's what drives me to be my very best and find a way that I can get better today. And when I talk about alpha, and a lot of times people, this kind of weaves into our hunger, but when I talk about an alpha, people sometimes get off put thinking like the alpha is like that badass in the room that's going to go beat everybody up and has to be the alpha dog or whatever.
Hmm.
That's not an alpha to me. That guy's just, he's a poser, he's a pretender, he or she. For me, it's just a person that's constantly improving daily and then performs at their highest when needed. That's what an alpha is to me. And if I'm going to be an alpha, if I'm going to lead other alphas, if I'm going to create other alphas, then I have to go maximize today and find that 1% that's going to get me better. Just 1%. I don't need to be 1,000% better today. I just need to be 1% better because if I'm 1% better today and I do that for a whole year, I'm 3.5 times the person I was. And who wouldn't give anything for that? So it's the idea that I have to remind myself because, again, I know I'm going into a lot of me, but I was a perfectionist back in the day. Everything had to be perfect, had to be straight A's, had to be 100%. If I didn't get 100%, why did I not get 100%? I have to remind myself progress over perfection because otherwise that's going to steal every single joy, every single accomplishment that you have because
Yeah.
there's always going to be another level to get to.
Right.
So progress over perfection of 1% better every single day. And it's the little things.
Mhm.
It's the little things that are going to be that 1% that get you better.
Yeah, I love that. That it goes a lot of the things that I talk about as well in terms of that noticing your small wins along the way and 1% better every day and thinking about that phrase of progress, not perfection. Absolutely. And so, Dom, knowing a little bit about your backstory and being an athlete, especially when you were younger, and being a good athlete and having these expectations thrown upon you as an adult now, I feel that fear is usually a common roadblock for adults. And I know that you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of high school age kids and collegiate age kids. Thinking back to when you were that age as well, and an aspiring like an elite athlete, what is the number one holdback for individuals at that point in their life from stepping into their best version of themselves? Because again, like for us, I believe for adults, fear is usually the common the roadblock for adults to step outside of their comfort zone and try something new. But I think as you know, when we're younger, we feel like we're invincible, especially at age like 18, 19, 20. You're thinking like you got this world figured out, right? But I know that there are also holdbacks at that age as well. So with your experience in working with kids that age, what do you find is their number one holdback in stepping into their next best version?
I think it's similar of fear, but the fears are different.
Okay.
The fear is rejection from peers. The fear is being made fun of by peers. I think it's a lot more peer driven of, yes, I want to be good at something and I'll maybe want the spotlight on me when things are good, but I don't want anybody to see my blemishes. I don't want anybody to see that I'm not perfect. I don't want anybody to make fun of me for something that I really like or want to do. And so it's fear in a different way of not wanting to be outside the crowd or outside the cool kids, I guess, per se, quote unquote, cool
Yeah.
kids. And it's helping them understand that being a cool kid isn't that cool sometimes. Being a cool kid sometimes means that you have to be less of you and more of somebody else, which again, you're giving away power.
Mhm.
So it's helping them understand that if all the cool kids are doing something, but you know that's wrong, or you know that's not you, then why would you do that? Just to fit in? So you're going to, again, give away power. You're going to not make yourself better. And I think it's finding those people around you to help empower you to do that. And again, that could be parents, that could be a mentor, that could be other peers that actually see eye to eye with you. The one thing I like to drive home with high school and college age people is understanding that they control themselves. Again, it's the idea of controllables, but you can control you. So make sure that you're doing everything for you that makes you a better person. And if that means that you have to skip out on a hangout or find new friends, as scary as that's going to be, it'll be the best thing you ever did in your life. And I think a lot of us deal with fear. A lot of us deal with the fear of failure as well.
Yeah.
So I think those are some different things that I work on to help them with. But yeah, even though they feel invincible, it's the problem of peers and wanting to fit in. And I know we've all both been there of like wanting to fit in with certain people and wanting our peers to accept us.
Mhm.
But if that's not always what's best for us, then maybe that's not the right alley to go down.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to your EATTE acronym and dig into the toughness, the T for toughness a little bit, and kind of open up a discussion about your alpha pack coaching. And you talked about toughness and setting the standard, and that's something that you and I are both familiar with. So I was hoping you could tell us, like, how do you help individuals set their standard through the tools that you utilize in your alpha pack coaching?
Yeah. So with toughness, again, that discipline, how do you develop discipline? It doesn't just come overnight. So it goes back to the 1% better every single day, giving the landmark of all you have to do is get 1% better today. How do you do that? Complete your standards. So let's find standards for you that when you think back to maybe the most successful you've been, or maybe you're currently successful, but you want to get to that next level. Well, what does that look like? So I teach what I call the alpha day and having standards for the day. So that's one or two standards for you personally every single day,
Mhm.
one or two standards for you professionally every single day, and then an act of service that you do every single day. So it's the same as Ben's prize fighter day.
Mhm.
For athletes, which is a little bit different from business professionals or adults, it's going to be your personal still. You're still going to have the active service, but then you're going to have academics if you're in college or high school, and then
Yeah.
you'll have all your athletic ones that you have to accomplish. Now, there's 24 hours in a day. We don't have unlimited amount of time. I understand that. But it's understanding what are the things that are going to move the needle for you personally. What are the one or two things that are going to move the needle for you professionally? What are the one or two things that are going to move the needle for you academically and athletically? Locking in on those every single day and then building them into your daily routine, making sure you find a way to get them done. And it may be just 5 minutes of something. If you intentionally focus for 5 minutes on something, you're going to get a lot better. If you are able to get it to 10, that's 5 hours in a month that you've just intentionally focused on something. I promise you, if you're intentionally focused for 5 hours on something over a month span, you're going to be better at it. So it's helping them understand that it's just finding little things throughout your day to make sure you're getting better. And then at the same time, when we're checking those things off, let's say if I had to drink a gallon of water. Okay, drink a gallon of water, check it off. Actually, go check it off on a whiteboard, on your phone, whatever it is. Maybe it's, I'm going to get 10 extra minutes of film watching for an athlete. Okay, go watch 10 minutes of film, intentionally focused, nothing else, blocking everybody else. No one's in your room. Phone might be in front of you to watch film, but it's on do not disturb, whatever it is, 10 minutes there. Maybe as a professional, I'm going to make sure that I have a value added conversation with a prospect every single day. So if I have to make 100 calls, I'm making 100 calls. If I have to make 50, if I get it at 50 calls, cool, I have a value added conversation. I can check that off. And that's going to release dopamine as you check it off, which is going to help you want to create more and more and more and be better and better. And so that's how I kind of create it, is by helping them understand those different things that are going to move the needle to get to that 1%, but then it's just attacking them every single day.
So it kind of comes back to that P word of progress, figuring out the things that are going to help you make progress in those areas of your life and then writing those down. And now in doing that, you have created the standard in which you need to live in order to continue to make progress.
Yep. And I think I guess I didn't really tie it back to toughness, but that's what builds toughness is doing those daily things that seem monotonous, that seem boring, that seem like you may not want to do them one day, but still doing them anyways and doing them to the maximum of your ability. That's what true toughness builds, because then you start doing it over and over and over again. I talked about 75 hard with you beforehand.
Yeah.
We both know it's freezing cold where we live. I'm in Columbus. You're up in Fort Wayne. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
I have to go outside later today when it's in the teens, in the single digits, and I got to go for a walk for 45 minutes and do it as fast as I possibly can with maximum effort. And I don't want to do that. And that's building toughness for me because it's a standard for me right now.
Right.
That is what I have to do. And so that's how it builds true toughness of being able to understand I can do uncomfortable things. So when a new uncomfortable area or stepping outside my comfort zone comes up, I can look back at the past with confidence of, oh, I've done a bunch of hard things in my life. Oh, I got this one too. It just builds that confidence. And that's where true toughness comes from.
Yeah, I love that. And that speaks to, the acronym that I teach in RENTS, and the R in RENTS being remember. And that's what it's exactly about. Us remember that we can do hard things because we've done them before. And when that next hard thing comes, when that next adversity stands up, we know that we've done it. We can remember that we've done hard things before, and we can do this too.
Yeah, I like to tell, so again, I'm working with mainly athletes. Haven't gotten to the business side yet, but you can use this as well. But basically build like a highlight tape of yourself in your head of all the hard things you've done or all the accomplishments you've achieved. And that's going to be part of, I guess, your remember, right? That's going to help you see, well, I've done this and that. And then you just play the highlight tape in your head and you're able to see yourself actually doing those things. And it's going to help instill in your brain that I've done this before. This is easy. I may not succeed, but I've failed on other things. Then I eventually succeeded. Let's go attack this and see what happens. Worst thing that happens is I'm still where I'm at. So let's go attack it.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, because we all know what'll happen if we don't attack it. Why don't we find out what happens if we do?
Exactly.
Love that. I love that. Dom, tell us more about where we can find out more information about you, about Alpha Pack. I know you've got your Leading the Pack podcast. Where can our listeners and viewers get more of Coach Clegg?
Yeah. So all my handles on every single social media, I finally synced them all up. So it's Coach Dom Clegg on every single social media. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Those are going to be all the main places. I'm on Threads, but I know most people aren't on there. So TikTok, Instagram are probably where you're going to see a lot of videos, and you'll be able to understand and see what I talk about. If you go on my website, www.alphapack, it's A1PHA pack.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be where you can find more information about what I do, who I work with. If you would like to get a free packet, there's an alpha packet on there that you can download for free to help you start implementing your hunger, I am statements, getting your alpha day or your alpha morning started. And those are going to be some ways that you can start attacking today already. And then if you need anything else, reach out to me on alphapack.com, and my email's on there, and I would love to help and work with. And then, like you said, my Leading the Pack, one episode dropped so far, working on the second one, and then going to be putting them more out every month or so, and definitely going to have you on as well, Ian. So
it'd be my honor and my pleasure. I'd appreciate it. All right, everybody, there it is. Now, make sure you go check out Coach Clegg, because he's going to help you learn how to eat. And I want to thank all of our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to this episode of the Positive Persistence Podcast, where you guys know that it's so important to stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Positive Persistence family. We're having a great time creating this content, and we truly hope it inspires you to embrace positivity and persistence in your own journey. If this podcast episode inspired you or entertained you, scroll down, hit those stars, and leave a comment or two. Your 5-star reviews and shares encourage us and help us grow the show. So until next time,
stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything.